What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Wave podcast here at the Culture Wave Media Network, and we are here to discuss a very highly anticipated movie. It is the debut of the first family in the MCU. We are reviewing the Fantastic Four First Steps. I'm going to be one of your hosts. My name is Reed Richards. I am joined with
Johnny Storm,
Sue Storm here,
and Ben Groom.
Thank you all for watching. Excited to talk about this with everybody. This is the last comic book movie in a year gluttonous, filled with so many comic book stories. We're coming off the heels of Superman. We had Thunderbolts earlier in the year. We had Captain America: Brave New World, and now we have arrived to this movie that is going to be kind of this introductory thing leading into these next big things happening in Marvel, right? With the Avengers and Doomsday and Secret Wars. But this movie reintroduces these characters that we have seen before. They've had multiple incarnations over the 2000s. We had the earlier ones with Jessica Alba and Chris Evans playing the Human Torch before he was Captain America. Then we had Fan Four Stick, as it's often commonly referred to, the Josh Trank movie with Michael B. Jordan as the Human Torch, and also Miles Teller, Kate Mara, and Jamie Bell. So this one, we have Pedro Pascal as Mr. Fantastic. We have Joseph Quinn as the Human Torch, Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm, and Ebon Moss-Bachrach, best known for the Bear, playing the Thing. And so I want to start with the cast. Let's start with the first family. Let's start with all these people that were cast in these iconic roles. Sean, we'll start with you. Just from the cast perspective, how are you feeling about the way that these actors portrayed these iconic characters in this movie?
Sure, yeah. I enjoy this cast. I think they have a good little camaraderie. They feel like a family, right? That's what all the reviews are saying. I agree, I guess. Pedro's cool. He's a very good actor. He shows up in every movie ever, so I'm sure he could lead yet another one. That's fine. Let him do it. He's a good Reed Richards. I think that Ben Grimm is very entertaining. I think Johnny Storm is pretty much like just the right level of like dick, but also like fun, and they give him like a bit of a heart here that Joseph Quinn really exemplifies, I feel like. And Vanessa Kirby kind of stole the show for me here. I think she's maybe the strongest of the four. She's my favorite Invisible Woman iteration, I guess, portrayed in live action. I think she does a really good job. I overall very positive about the cast.
Meaghan, what about you?
I have very similar opinions as Sean. I mean, for starters, seeing Pedro Pascal again, it's kind of like I feel a little bit like I'm just seeing him everywhere right now. So when I see him, I just see Pedro Pascal. I don't really sometimes I don't even see the character because I'm just so aware that it's him. But I still think that he did a great job. But I think that Joseph Quinn for me was probably the most standout. I really liked him in this, and Vanessa Kirby, I think also, I've been seeing a lot of the same reviews, just how they really do feel like a family, which I really did love. I think that she definitely had, like, if not like one of the strongest, but like the strongest performance in this. And then, I mean, the Thing, you know, I also really did feel like sympathetic for him, and I thought that he was very entertaining as well, and he did make me laugh. So I was honestly, I don't really have any gripes with the casting, besides for just like seeing Pedro again. But I mean, that's not even the worst thing, but you know.
Yeah. Vinny, what about you?
I'm coming in with the hate on this one because I do like the cast overall. Joseph Quinn as Human Torch was the one that, going into this, I was scared for. And yet, he was my favorite one. He brings, and also a testament to the writers here, he has that ladies' man persona that Johnny has, right? But also, like you said, Sean, he has a lot of heart. I think Quinn does it really well. He brings such an active and an initiative to the story within his performance and how the character is handled here. And I like Ebon as the Thing. I almost think that there could have been more done with Ebon's performance. You know, I heard a lot of people in the comic book sphere like saying, okay, why didn't he do like the traditional like New York taxi cab driver voice? Because in a world like this, it would be appropriate, but you know, it's not that big of a deal. I did love Quinn and Ebon Moss-Bachrach's just banter. I'm bringing the hate on Pedro, though, because I love him, right? He's so charming. He's so, you know, good looking, and he's so beautiful. But Pedro, for me, in this film, was very boring. And not in a way that Reed is a boring character, which he's not a boring character. I came out of this film, I said to my friend, who's a big Reed Richards fan, he loves the Hickman run of the comic books, and I'm like, he felt flat. And he said, no, Reed is a flat character. I said, no, you can play a somewhat logical, somewhat almost emotionally vacant character at times, but not be flat as a performer, because compared when you're in the same room as Kirby, Quinn, and Moss-Bachrach, he's just so boring. You know, it just feels like he's bringing what he needs to, but nothing more. And that might not be Pedro's fault. That might just be the MCU's fault, because I also did read into this that he wanted to do more. He wanted to do an accent for Reed, and they didn't allow him to do it. So it could have been that. But I'm not vibing with Pedro right now, just because the fact that he got announced, Feige said he's going to be the face of Marvel from this point forward, not completely sold. I'm not. Kirby was great. I also think it's more of like how they handled her character, but Quinn and Ebon were my favorites.
So we're all kind of all over the place, which I like, because I think I would agree, though. I think Reed is probably the standout worst performance, though I don't think it's bad. I do think it's unfortunate that some of it is obviously out of Pedro's control, that 3 movies get released within a 3-month period that he happens to be the star of. And there's like a whole meme going around where it's somebody going to a movie theater and it's like, do you want to see a Pedro Pascal movie, or a Pedro Pascal movie? And that sucks for him, because I do think that in terms of the other live action Reeds we've seen, I actually still think that this is probably the best portrayal that we've seen in live action for Reed, for me. Having said that, I think that agreeing with what you guys were saying, I think Vanessa Kirby kind of steals every scene that she's in. And I think she's by far the MVP for me. With Johnny, it's another character that I also love, and I do think that Joseph Quinn does resemble that kind of playboy type character. But the one thing that I do think is missing, and again, this I don't know if this is really an acting thing or if this is something with the writing and the way the character's arc kind of goes throughout the movie, he should have started out as someone that was more bro-y to me. Like, that's the way the character has always read to me, where like he's so much more of a ladies' man and it's kind of overt. And I don't know if it's because Disney wanted to kind of tread water in terms of how they were presenting him, because even when we get into the spoilers and the conversation of what happens in the movie, when he makes this attempt to do something that is like heroic, I don't think it has the same payoff, because the character was kind of the same throughout the movie. So, but regardless, I do think my biggest standout in terms of the cast is that I think the chemistry between the 4 of them and all of their individual pairs are the best part of the movie. I think that Ben and Johnny have great camaraderie as friends. I think you can see the respect between Ben and Reed throughout the movie. The relationship between, I think the best part of Pedro's performance is his chemistry with Vanessa Kirby. And I think even how Kirby leans into the brother dynamic with Johnny really works. And even in like the few scenes we get of Johnny and Reed, like you can tell that Johnny is a pest when it comes to Reed. So I wish there was more time to let that develop, because one of my biggest issues with the film is that the pacing and the runtime, that there needed to be more movie. And I think it's very evident, and we see that. So transitioning out of that, broad thoughts, which we usually start with, but I wanted to kind of get the cast out of the way because it was obviously a big talking point. Broad thoughts for everybody on what you thought about this film coming out of it, non-spoiler, and then we'll get into spoilers after we go through this. But Vinny, let's start with you.
Okay, I'm definitely leaning more towards, honestly, I'm feeling indifferent about this. I'm very in the middle. I wouldn't say I'm a fan, but I wouldn't say I'm like a number one hater either. Anyhow, the film felt like a nothing burger to me. Everything on the outside, beautiful. I mean, the production design, the whole aesthetic, the action scenes, oh my god, so amazing. I mean, the black hole action scene is one of the greatest things I think I've ever seen in a Marvel film. It's amazing. Everything on the outside, it's great. I love the banter between some of them, although I wish that there was almost more bickering, but regardless. However, nothing burger. Everything felt hollow for me. It felt like, and kind of piggybacking off of that point of how there's more movie here, but it was clearly cut. I mean, John Malkovich was supposed to be in this film. He's completely cut out of the film. It just feels way too little of that. It's just surface level exploration, and nothing deeper. And it clearly feels like there's another movie in there that is just non-existent. We have a glimpse of a theme. We have a glimpse of some character explorations, but nothing more than just the standalone, okay, what we already know of these characters. And if you don't know the Fantastic Four, it might honestly, it might not feel like you know them at all, at least. But I already know these characters very well, and even then, we just get very glimpse. The whole there's a if you can even call it a subplot with Ben. It's one scene where they can establish that Ben has a connection with this other character. One scene, and then there's another scene at the end of the film. There was totally more there that we were completely missing. That's my biggest problem with this film. Is that it's just that.
Megan, what about you?
I definitely agree about the fact that there was probably more to be seen with this film. I mean, general thoughts, I really did enjoy it a lot. I had a lot of fun with it. I absolutely love Kirby, and I love Franklin, and we'll get into more of it. I mean, honestly, I think for me, just the fact that there's like an adorable robot and a baby, the whole time I was like, I was like literally freaking out. Like they actually like Disney knew exactly how to make me tweak like watching this. I was so worried for both of those characters, probably more so than anybody else. But I remember even when I checked the runtime before I had seen before I even went in to watch it, I was actually surprised, especially for a Marvel movie, that it was under 2 hours. I was like, that's kind of surprising. Like at least over 2 hours I would have expected. But I also don't. I know these characters, but I don't know them probably like as well as like Vinny knows them, or like, you know, someone who actually reads the comics. I'm more of a like an MCU fanatic. It's actually my first time talking about a Marvel movie on the podcast, which I'm very excited about. But so I kind of went in just like kind of with a surface level knowledge of who these characters were. So I ended up just having a lot of fun, especially with how it looked. I don't know, like I definitely like the production design. Obviously, much of it definitely was, you know, CGI and done in post. I mean, you can't, you know, do flying cars that easily, but but I love the retro futurism of it, and I just really enjoyed the aesthetics of it. Everything looked so awesome. So I think the whole time I was just really impressed with all the technical just aspects of it, and I just thought like that was very impressive, and I really enjoyed just looking at it. Like the whole time I just was like, yeah, pretty colors. It had like, you know, the whole 9 yards. I really enjoyed all of that. So I think in general, I really did have fun with it. I did write in my Letterboxd review actually that it felt, I think, like the overarching gripe I guess I have is just the fact that it definitely just sort of felt like it was created to be sort of like a stepping stone towards Doomsday. Like they're like, all right, now we're gonna throw these characters in here and then use them to just kind of progress towards making that movie, and it kind of felt less about them, more so about, all right, how is this going to fit into everything else? So they weren't so much focused on them, the Fantastic Four. It was more so how can they serve us
Going
to make
forward.
the next movie?
Going
forward, exactly. So I think that's my general take on it.
Sean, what about you?
Yeah, I'm more or less one for one with what Vinny said. I think that this is a movie that kind of feels like it got chopped up on the editing floor, and there was a lot of substance that got cut out of this movie that I think needed to be there for me to like really attach to any of these characters. My chief gripe with it is that I don't think anyone really goes through a substantial change, and as someone who's, you know, like a screenwriter by trade, that's like the first thing you do when you're starting a movie is like character goes from point A to point B. And I feel like this movie's sort of devoid of that for me. We start with these characters where they're like midway through their journey, they're already the Fantastic Four. And then by the time the movie resolves, they're still the Fantastic Four, and none of them have gone through any kind of substantial change outside of just like plot things. Yeah, and that just doesn't really sit right with me. The whole MCU in general, for the past couple of films, really feels like you were saying, Megan, like just stepping stones to get to like the big movie that's going to make them $1 billion. And it feels like the heart that I know was in this direction by some of those like amazing action scenes, like you were saying, this whole like Astropunk style, right? Like all of these really nice positive things. I feel like the overreaching gigantic Galactus hand of Marvel is just sort of like picking and choosing what they think is just like going to propel us to Doomsday, and it's killing the individual movies in a lot of ways for me. Vinny, I think what you were saying about Ben was like a perfect example. I know there was more there. Like he goes to a synagogue for like one scene, and I'm supposed to be like, nice, like cool side plot, but like nothing happens.
Yeah.
Like it's just there, and I feel like, oh well, there was like 2 more scenes there that would have given this like a purpose, but they're not there, and like I have a hard time excusing that. And like I know that some people can look past that and can just be like, oh, Herbie's in the movie, which I'm not riffing on you, Meaghan, but I feel like, I like Herbie, but there's like bigger problems in here that like I can't excuse because it has a cool style and the Marvel logo is different and Herbie and Franklin are finally in a movie, right? Like there's just stuff that like I just feel like is fundamentally wrong with this movie. And yeah, I just have like a tough time trying to like break it down and be like, yeah, I really enjoyed it, when the whole time I'm watching and I'm like, yeah, like Reed doesn't have an arc. Like your main character doesn't have an arc. Like that's just too much of an issue for me, I think, to be like nice. But
yeah. Well, I do think one of the things that it sounds like we all wanted was, again, actually for the first time in a while with the Marvel movie, we wanted more runtime.
Yeah.
It's like we wanted more substance and we wanted more kind of meat to the sandwich of what this movie was. Because I do agree with what a lot of you guys are saying. I think that Reed has a very small arc, but I think it's not something substantial enough to see from point A to point B where he's going to go. And also by the time the movie ends, it's like, and we get the mid-credits scene, it's like he's not even the character that's the focal point of what that is. The focal point, when we get to it eventually, is Franklin, which is a baby. So building the whole Fantastic Four story around a child was a very interesting choice. And I think one of the issues with this, again, is that I think it's been, like you said, butchered. With John Malkovich's character being cut, the only thing with that is like I wonder how much have he actually played into the plot, because I think about it the same way I look at like Mole Man in this movie, where I'm like, I understand why Mole Man was in the movie, but we didn't really need to do that. Like his character serves a purpose for eventually what they need to do to kind of take down Galactus, but the character doesn't serve much of a purpose. They have, like you said, they have all these comic book poppy things that people love, especially if you're a fan of the comics. Like we get a comic accurate Galactus who looks great, and Ralph Ineson does a great job with the voice, but we don't get enough of Galactus. I think Silver Surfer actually we get the most from. She has like the biggest story, and she has like a legitimate relationship that is formed with another character in Johnny. But I agree with, like, I think it's the best score in any Marvel movie we've seen, personally. I do love a lot of the scores in the Avengers movies, but Giacchino to me is like one of the best composers in the game, and I love, it's like an iconic score for me going forward. I thought the cinematography was really great. There's issues with the CGI, obviously. That baby, it's problems. Production design, though, again, it's something where I do think Matt Shakman as the director was the right choice, coming from where he came from with WandaVision, but then I also think to myself, WandaVision started so strong and then ended so poorly. And that's kind of how I feel with Fantastic Four. I actually feel like the first half of this movie is really, really great. And they do a really good job of, similar to what Superman did, dropping you in this world and establishing it instead of having to do the same origin that we've seen over and over again. I like the 10-minute opening sequence where they show them fighting crime. And I'm like, this, it reminds me of The Incredibles, which is so inspired by Fantastic Four.
Which is the best Fantastic Four movie, by the way.
Still is. Still, I agree. But so I can understand all of that. I do think part of the issue is that also this movie has 4 writers, which is crazy to me, because it's like, I wonder how many, like I don't think they started with 4 writers. That would be shocking to me.
They each wrote one character.
Yeah, like that. It's possible that that's what happened, or like all these passes kind of happen. But there are things I still really like about it. Again, I think the family element is the most prominent that we've seen across any other interpretation of what Fantastic Four we've seen before. And it's very inspired by the Jack Kirby comics, and that's at the heart of what this movie is, which I think it does really, really well. But at the same time, it lacks in then developing those individual characters, which I totally understand. Let's go into spoilers at this point, because we've talked a lot about the movie without spoiling specific things. So if you guys are watching and you haven't seen the movie yet, click off.
Get out of here.
Go see the movie and then come back and you guys can hear the spoiler discussion. But we're talking spoilers now. it's fair game. We could talk about anything. So I want to go back to you, Sean,
Okay.
because I know there's a lot of things that you dislike about the film and the structure and things like that. So talk to me about one thing. It could, again, spoiler, non-spoiler, whatever it is.
Okay.
One thing you really enjoyed that they did, and one thing that you were like really, really upset by the time you walked out of the theater. You were bothered by in terms of a choice that maybe it was directorially or written.
Yeah, well, I think what everybody's saying about this movie is generally true in terms of like what they really like what the marketing is choosing to highlight, what the reviews like are tending to highlight is that it looks really good. I think like there's some great action scenes. The score is excellent. The cast, as we've talked about, is like generally agreed to be pretty good. All of those elements of the movie I like. I actually agree with you that I think up until they get back from space, I think it's a very good movie. I'm like really enjoying it up until that point where it starts to simmer for me. But
Once Franklin enters the picture.
yeah, once we get Franklin, it is, which no offense to that baby, the Squid Games baby, the Squid Game CGI baby that pops up. But no, yeah, I think that it's well structured like in that first act, and then it just starts to hit problems. I guess to move on to those problems, yeah, my biggest thing, which I already kind of touched on, is just that the characters I don't feel like change enough. And that's like really something I want in a movie is like I want my character to have an arc. I guess Reed is technically the protagonist, but I would argue that it's more so Sue. And I guess you could argue that Sue maybe has an arc. I don't know exactly how to put it into words here, but I feel like she does have the most like substantial attention put to her character. She sort of feels like the lead, which is why it's so weird that they like pre-released this statement prior to the movie that like Pedro Pascal's the man. Because if I didn't know that, I would be like, oh, it's like taking a more like Sue Storm take on the Fantastic Four. So I like her too. I think she's like generally well done. Pedro and Reed as a character, I think it's very bland, like Vinny was saying. I don't get anything from him, and I don't think that has anything to do with Pedro. I think it's sort of the writing, and I think the reason for that is the crucial mistake that sort of tanked this movie for me is the second they go off the rocket ship that Pedro gives the lore dump that Galactus wants the baby and they're not going to do it. I think he says that way too quick. I think it feels unnatural in the scene of like, whoa, dude, like, why the fuck are you telling them that? And then it really deflates an opportunity for him to have like a personal conflict because Reed is established in the first 10 minutes of the movie to be like a man of the people. And he's like always pleasing everybody. Everyone's always like, you know, they love the Fantastic Four. They're all heroes. And Reed's the captain of all of the most loved family on Earth, right? So he cares about what the people think of him. And to just immediately like come off and like kind of drop this bomb deflates any tension that could have happened with him being like, well, obviously I'm not going to give up my baby, but like I could save all these people that like rely on me and love me. And like there's a good conflict there. But the movie, I feel like, doesn't do anything with it. And that really, like, sucks for me. I think that they give him, like, one beat when he's at the chalkboard for the 87th time where he's, like, looks at the baby monitor of Franklin in the crib. And you can kind of tell, like, based off Pedro's expression that he's thinking about, like we might have to fucking give this baby to Galactus. And, like, I want more of that.
Yeah.
I think that would have, like, really helped his arc. I think he could have gone from someone that's, like, sort of uber paranoid, needs to please everybody to, like, I don't know, a father. Like, that's the easiest arc that you could do is just someone, like, learning how to be a dad. And I think the movie just robs him of it. I didn't get anything, like, satisfying from that. I don't think Reed has any, like, big emotional scene that was, like, you know, his Act 3 climax, if you want to get Hero's Journey. But, yeah, I overall, just the character work here was really sorely lacking for me. And it's disappointing because I do think it was there. And I think, again, this was just like a botched editing job. I think they cut too much out of this movie and it kind of suffers for it.
Yeah, there's actually a scene that happens after he's contemplating that where Sue kind of addresses that with him.
Right.
And I think that you could have let that scene breathe more.
Yeah.
There could have been more even in that one scene that could have elevated this movie, whether it's like half a star or a star potentially, depending on how that scene plays out. So I totally understand that. Meaghan, something you really enjoyed, something you didn't enjoy in terms of anything in the movie?
So I am really glad that you brought up the scene, Sean, where he just tells everybody exactly what the problem is at hand, and because I thought the same exact thing. I was like, you know, this is the general public. And I do get that there's such a love and such a care for these people. Like they are their protectors of that world, like the only protectors of that world, and they deeply care about them. That's very evident. But like they're not your friends. you know, and he just kind of was like, yep, so here's the deal, like we got to give up the kid or you guys all die. Like he basically just told everybody that. And the reactions that they receive are like valid. Everyone's like, what? So like, okay, so are you gonna give up the baby? And they're like, no, you know, like I don't know yet. Like that is just like that was their biggest, like it was a big mistake to do. But then again, I think that in like generally speaking, they make it out okay. Like everybody, the public kind of they forgive them very quickly. They kind of find the solution very quickly. I think that's sort of like a general sort of problem with this film was that, yeah, I mean, it ends too quickly. Everything is resolved very fast. And that is something that's resolved very fast. And so is, yeah, the confrontation that Sue does have with Reed when she realizes that he maybe for a moment is actually considering giving up the baby to save the world. And I think that any kind of arc that Reed maybe was having was actually kind of pushed by Sue, like it almost really happening because of her. And I think that in turn does make her the most interesting, the most strong character, which is I think what we're kind of all thinking and saying. So I think that, yeah, that was certainly something that I picked up on and I just found very interesting because, yeah, in that case, like there was a lot more room for, you know, that to be a bigger conflict, for them to even just like fight, for them to not like each other or like have like a real big problem for a portion of the film where they really didn't. There's a lot of camaraderie, but it's only camaraderie between them. So I think that could have made just for a more dynamic film, just more conflict in general, and they didn't really do that, which I mean, you know, makes everybody happy, but that can be boring, that can be kind of flat. So I think that is probably the biggest thing that I notice about the film, you know, in a negative light. But I think for me, like I'm gonna start out, you know, very, very simple. Like Franklin made, like, okay, yes, when he is born, you like that's like an alien, you know, like that's like a jelly child. That's like a what am I looking at? Like, and then he just kind of. I think it's very obvious that when they used a real baby and when they didn't.
Yeah.
So like which I kind of tried to ignore because I think that was like he was really driving a lot of the emotion for me because I was really stressed out for that kid. Just because, like, I mean, again, I'm very simple. Like, there was a cute baby on the screen with these big blue eyes, and he's in danger, and I'm like, oh my god, like that is how simple like it was for me. Like that was my primary focus. I was so terrified for him. So like I really enjoyed just every scene that he was in. I was just like sitting there like, oh my god. I like, again, you know, very simple. That made me very happy. And then also Human Torch was, you know, also had a lot more room to be a more you know, have a bigger arc. But I do think, like, I really do admire his sacrifices and how he really was like a good person at the core, and it's just so clear. And like his little thing he's got going on with Silver Surfer, I found to be very interesting, and just the fact that he was so invested in their language and he like was trying to understand it and he was like decoding it. I found that a very interesting side plot going on, which I kind of wish there was more of, because I almost didn't really understand how he. Because again, I haven't read the comics. I think maybe if I did, maybe I'd understand a little bit more about what was going on there. But I found that to be very interesting, because like everyone in this movie, like they're very smart. I mean, they're all, you know, astronauts.
Yeah.
But like, you know, he's really so invested, and I just found that just to be so interesting. And again, he also is another, like, he is kind of the catalyst for someone else's arc, Silver Surfer's arc. So I think that's kind of like an ongoing thing. I don't want to keep talking about the negatives, but. I did find, like, I think, like, my favorite characters, the most entertaining characters for me, were totally Human Torch and Franklin. Like, yeah. I loved them. Yeah.
Vinny, I want to ask you something in terms of, because we're talking about this press conference and it's such a big aspect of, like, Reed Richards as a character, I think both of you guys have touched on it, is kind of bland and boring, but I know that, like, a lot of people talk about how Reed is, like, one of the hardest characters even in comics to, like, write. Yeah. Because he's multi-layered, because there's the aspect of him being a scientist and a father and a husband.
Genius.
Yes.
It's so hard to write intelligent characters unless you're an extremely intelligent writer.
Yeah. And so my biggest thing is it that that's part of the sensibility of what they're trying to discover with this version of the character? Because, like, for me in that moment, I do understand the gripes with it and just coming out and telling everybody, it's like, yeah, well, that's obviously problematic. But in that moment, he really, to me, it feels like he really is unsure about what to do because so much of his moral compass is based on the fact that he wants to do what's right by everyone. And he does make that clear in the movie. There are lines in which he kind of discovers that. So for you, I think you've read at least some Fantastic Four comics. How do you feel about the way that scene played out and the sensibilities of Reed? And how do you handle that maybe going forward? Because it's such a problem with that character, you know?
Here's the thing. I think people are gonna. Oh, here's the thing. Anyhow, so I think I'm actually kind of an outsider because I like when Reed is a little bit more like weird. True. You know, like and there's so many different interpretations of him, and this definitely goes more into like the Hickman interpretation of like he is, you know, he's very kind of by the books, very very logical. I almost wanted him to have like some weirdness to him, some like freaky deakiness to him. I think that, but I think I'm an outsider on that because that is a Reed Richards I like. I mean, he has stretchy powers. I just think like as much hate as the original films get, I love the scene where he's on the dance floor. He just like stretches to the sky in front of all these women, and they're like, oh, right? Like stupid shit like that. I just wish there was more kind of. I can't even put it into words. It's an illegitimate critique, honestly, on my part. But your question, like how. Could you repeat your question?
It's more of just the sensibilities of how do we handle this Reed going forward? Because I understand what you're saying, but the Tim Story movies had a very obvious influence and direction and style where it's even different than like MCU humor, right? Like those movies are very much like even the outfits they wear are ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like it's different. And with this version of the character that is very inspired by like the Hickman runs and the Kirby comics, like how do we go forward with this version of this character and make him more, I don't know if relatable is the right word, but something where we can connect to Reed on a deeper level. And maybe you have that. Maybe, I mean, you kind of just said it's a hard thing to do as a writer.
I mean, it is difficult to do. I don't want to cut Vinny off, but I mean, I guess like the main thing I'll say is that it concerns me going forward that he's going to be like the huge protagonist of the MCU. Because isn't it like Doctor Doom's really supposed to beef with this guy, right? Like that's like essential to Doctor Doom's character is he wants to get Reed Richards. Well, it's like he's beefing with like a piece of toast right now. Like there's no like like how do you hate this guy? Like I don't get it. You know, like if he was Mr. Freaktastic, like you're talking about, then like maybe you know he could be like, oh, like I got a bone to pick with this guy. But like I don't buy it now. Like what did Reed do that's like so crazy?
I think we're gonna get that in Doomsday.
Well, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, but I get that part of it. I think that. I think all your gripes are valid. I think that still so much of what lacks in this movie for me is that depth of characters. Like we're not getting deeper with Johnny and the relationship he has or he tries to form with Shalabal and like I alluded to this earlier when we were talking non-spoilers, but like for me, even if like Johnny, like Sue probably has the biggest arc in terms of, again, she is kind of the main protagonist driving the movie forward, regardless of whether people agree she should or shouldn't be. I think they're kind of 1A, 1B usually, Sue and Reed. You know what I mean? But with Johnny, he makes this sacrifice that is not earned later on in the movie when he wants to sacrifice himself for his nephew. Like,
well, you know what it is for me? Yeah. I think that it's a fine beat. It's just that when the movie starts, in the first scene that Johnny's in, I would think he would do the same thing.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, like it doesn't feel like he grew to a point where it's like, oh, I'm actually going to save. Like you said something earlier where you were talking about like he doesn't feel like he's enough of an asshole at the start of the movie. I agree with you. Yeah. Because they build it like as if this is like a heroic moment for him where he's like, I'm finally going to like do the right thing. But it's like he's been doing the right thing the whole time.
Exactly. I 100% agree with you. And I think that's the aspect. Like I think all of the actors do a good job of portraying these characters. Like they know clearly who they're supposed to be as Mr. Fantastic, Invisible Woman, Thing, and Human Torch. But because, and you brought up the thing with Ben Grimm too, like, yeah, we see in the comics, it's like a very big deal that he's Jewish. Like it's a very big deal in the comics, and it's something that is alluded to and it's talked about a lot throughout that. And yeah, he shows up in a synagogue and he waves to Natasha Lyonne, and then they cut away. Yeah. And so like, where is the rest of that? Where is seeing Johnny go through these trials of being like a piece of shit and learning from what that is. And like he's a pest to read, but he doesn't come off as an asshole. He just comes off as like he's young and childish. And that's not something where, again, it's not like that really necessarily completely changes by the end of the film.
Right.
Yeah.
He's not even annoying either. Like, you know, if he's like charming and like kind of like funny. You know, like if he was like really irritating or something and then he like matures, then that could be an arc too. But no, he's cool, he's suave, like Joseph Quinn's a handsome guy. There's no conflict. That's another huge problem with this movie. The four of them don't have any conflict with each other.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fucking nightmare for a movie where most of it is just the four of them talking. They have no issues with each other. Well, except Sue and Reed. Sue and Reed have like a little bit of a plot there with like that scene you were talking about that is really good, where she's like, you know, obviously you can't, like, you're obsessive and you think of the worst case scenario all the time. Like, that's a good scene.
Yeah.
But like Johnny and Ben don't have any kind of problem with each other. Ben and Reed have no problem. Johnny and Reed, Johnny and Sue. There's no issues between them. And like that's like essential, you know, and then that's not there.
Do you think part of that, and I'll pose this question to any of you guys, do you think part of the reason that doesn't happen is because we miss out on the formation of them as a team?
I mean, it could be.
Because like so much of that is like, again, like the learning curve kind of thing, right? And it is different than like I heard somebody talk about this where like in the Avengers movies, you're bringing together a group of personalities that don't mix ever. Mm-hmm. And the whole thing that, again, is at the core of this movie, which I think whether you like the movie or you don't, you can agree, the central theme is family.
Yes.
And they show that and they do a good job of portraying that on screen. So it's a different kind of vibe when we're talking about people that were familiar and loved each other before they went up into space and got these powers versus now they're 3 years removed from being the Fantastic Four. You know?
Yes, but there's a way to do conflict without hating each other. Like, I love my mom. I still argue with her. We still beef over things, you know? Like, that's what's missing from here. Like families argue, too. Like, it's not all, like, lovey-dovey 100% of the time. And this is, like, a world-ending situation where, like, all the pressure's on.
There
and, like, they never crack. Like, there's never, like, an outburst. Reed never, like, fucking yells at anybody or, like, freaks out. Or, like, the Human Torch doesn't just go, like, I'm not dealing with this and leave. Like, because he's a childish guy. Like, there's so many, like, character moments that could have been there that are not there, where again it just feels like they should have been there, and if they were, they cut them out. Like, it's weird to me. It feels like I don't know, it's just like a nothing burger. Vinny, I like that word you use, nothing burger.
Thank you. Hey, do you mind if I piggyback?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I agree with you, Sean, and you know, throughout this film it almost felt like after a certain point there was no tension anymore because we have this world-ending threat, and Galactus is a huge threat. Like, it's like crazy, like one of the most powerful beings in all of Marvel, right? So, which is another thing which I'm gonna just say it now. I felt very lackluster about the final resolution of this film, of how one of the most powerful beings in Marvel was just like, okay, let's push him over now, right? But after a certain while, I'd probably say about the midpoint of the film when they come back from space and then they start building the teleportation gates, I realized everything's gonna be all right, which is not good. It's not good. Is that it just felt too easy breezy, and even the characters knew that they were gonna win in the end, and I don't want to feel like that. I don't want to feel comfortable when the world is about to end.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be stressed with them.
Yeah.
I want to, and that's an excellent point that you make, Sean. And a reason. Okay, so I didn't want to go into this review playing the comparison game, but I have to. And this is going to be one point. But shout out Austin Cooley on YouTube. I don't think he made a YouTube video on this, but I read his Letterboxd review, and he made a very brilliant point that I feel very similar with. Is that, and I didn't want to play the comparison game, but I'm going to, because I love Superman, and Superman is fresh on my mind still. It was only 2 weeks ago. And in Superman, Gunn really shows humans and the world, and how the world just does not work together. People are always, even if it's for the better interest of the world literally ending and Lex Luthor just fucking shit up, they're not going to work together. They're going to be like, we don't like you. We don't like you. You're from another country. We don't like you, right? And that is the greatest fault of humanity worldwide. And I love how there was so much of a show of that in Superman. And Austin Cooley, shout out him, made a brilliant point that this film is so naive in its outlook on family and humanity. It's so naive. And it's almost like, I don't want to say it's disgusting, but it kind of like, it kind of is just like childish to me of how everyone just seemingly is like, yeah, let's put our trust into these four guys, even after they told us that they're not going to sacrifice their child, and we were all mad at them for it. But everyone, all these countries worldwide, just seemingly just work together perfectly, and the family in these stressful moments just seem to work together perfectly, and it just feels naive to me, and that is a really big issue of like, I felt no tension there. So everyone's gonna work together and it's gonna be fine. Okay, great. Movie should have ended there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Also, I didn't say it before, but the score is amazing. It's so beautiful. Right,
But you said you had a good thing in there. Go ahead, Megan.
That was such a whiplash I just got from from. By the way, the score is beautiful because those are really good points, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like that. This is like a great elaboration on like what I was kind of starting to touch on earlier, because like literally everyone is outside that, like their building, their whatever, their penthouse, their giant, and like they're so calm about it. Like they I remember like they're just like sitting in their like pajamas and they're just like lounging there and they're like, oh, man, what do we do? Like I literally remember thinking like, wow, they're oddly calm about this right now. And I'm not even gonna lie, I don't remember what the original question was that I was supposed to answer right now, or if I was just supposed to elaborate on.
Oh yeah, it's if you want to go off.
Gotcha, right? Because
We're just chatting.
Yeah, we're just chatting away at the movie.
We basically are, which is great because like, there's so much to talk about here. But yeah, I mean, and that's like the biggest thing too, is just like, there's no like every conflict is resolved so quickly, and there really just is kind of a lack of conflict. And even like at the end, like nobody, like even when one of the main characters we think is about to die or is dead, she's not. So like literally everybody survives, and everybody's just kind of like, everybody's just sort of okay at the end. And then like genuinely it is just sort of a setup, like, all right, we're geared up to fight to fight Galactus again, to fight Doom. Like they're like, oh, we're ready, because nothing ultimately that happened to them, and it was just very easy for them to just like kind of postpone the problem, just send him to another like the most like I don't remember where they sent him, just like the furthest point on like in the universe, or like
somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
Genuinely, like they're like, it's like the most like, it's like the biggest procrastination I've ever seen like in my life. Like it's like just the biggest example of just like, we're gonna save this for later because they can't defeat him. So it's like you already know, like, okay, they're literally pushing this off so that way they could have Spider-Man and
I think I'm sorry to cut you off.
You're good.
Part of that, why I think, and again, this goes back to what you were saying before, where it's also like, why are we just doing this to be set up?
Yeah.
Like, it's the multiverse saga. Like, we're obviously gonna see, because so much of it is that they already don't understand in their Earth that they don't even realize that there's other Earths that exist. Like, they're not aware of that yet. Or I mean, Reed probably is. And it's like the same thing where like Reed and Tony Stark had like when Tony realized all these things about time travel in Endgame, he's like, yeah, I knew it could exist. I looked into it. But
I'm sure there's going to be a thing on YouTube where it's like people doing the red circle on the chalkboard where it's like, wait, this is actually multiverse theory right here. It's like Reed knows all along. There's probably going to be some nonsense like that.
Definitely. Oh,
definitely. But no, but I because I agree with what you guys are saying in terms of, I think the back half of the movie is significantly worse than the first half of the movie. But we're shitting on this movie right now, I feel sometimes. And I do, but I want to let's talk about the outer space sequence.
Okay.
Because a lot of people, I know you also really enjoyed it because you talked about it in your Letterboxd review. But to me, it's also like visually, like as soon as they are launching into space up until they leave space, I think it's visually one of the best things that they've ever done in Marvel. And like there are sequences with it, like watching the Silver Surfer ride waves on lava and sand is just ripped out of a comic, and it's so cool. And getting to see even Johnny having to deal with the elements of this suit that is built for him because they have to go up there and he has to understand how to maintain that, and the tenseness that you're feeling in the spaceship and what could happen next. Plus she's literally having a child, like the most dire of circumstances. So that's a whole sequence to me that's like a 20-minute thing in the movie that I think is one of the best things we've seen in Marvel maybe since Endgame, genuinely.
Oh yeah.
So anything in terms of that sequence that any of you guys want to talk about? Do you disagree?
I don't disagree with you. I just think maybe a little overhyped. I think it's a great sequence, but it wasn't like Interstellar levels of like, wow, you know, like I just thought it was very cool. I liked the surfing on the Saturn ring thing. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer. I won't like shit on it, but I think it is a cool sequence. I just think, yeah, I don't know. Like I think again, it comes down to the editing for me. Like it didn't feel like sporadic editing. It was very like, we're gonna like just sit in this like corner of the room and we'll get like a nice like steady cam on Sue giving birth or whatever. Like I felt like it could have used a little more like, you know, the score was helping a lot. I think like we keep going back to how great that score is, and visually it looked really good, but like I can't recall like a specific like shot or like framing that really blew me away. Like that whole time when she just got the baby, I was waiting because there's a window right there. I was waiting for her to be like holding the baby and like the windows behind and there's like the sun like shining through. I like envisioned that shot. I was like, that shot's coming up, and it never came, and I was like, oh, all right, shit.
I thought you were about to say like the baby like gets sucked out.
Get sucked in the black hole. I would have fucking remembered that. That would have been cool too. Yeah, I don't know. Black holes, like if you do a black hole with like a $400 million movie budget, like it's gonna look cool. I feel like, you know. But I'm being such a Debbie Downer. It's a cool sequence.
Megan, Vinny, either of you?
Yeah, I actually was just recently sort of reintroduced to the idea of how terrifying black holes actually are, because in like, you know, in our reality at least, right, we have like such a little information on what a black hole even looks like, on what actually happens when you're sucked into one, you know, like it's just kind of this like very, you know, this idea that we just really don't know much about. We really don't know much about it. So I think just the fact that they, you know, attempted such like an ambitious visual journey, and just kind of like the stakes were actually very high in that moment. Like they needed to get out of there. Like there was it just like, I think they did it justice visually. I think it was stunning, and I genuinely was sitting there and just like thinking like, wow, like this is crazy. Did I maybe think, you know, was I sitting there like, they're gonna be okay probably? I mean, we're only like 40 minutes in, if not, you know. I was like, yeah, they're gonna be fine. Yeah. I didn't think the baby was gonna get sucked out of the window. Like I wasn't worried about anything. So there was a lot of room for me to sit there and appreciate how stunning it was and just how cool it was. Like, wow, this is like, you know, this is a really trippy experience. It looked very cool. So yeah, I mean, that's my general thoughts on that scene for sure.
Vinny?
I'm actually very, very positive about this scene, because honestly, it's like everything that I want from an action scene. So the setup of the visual scene Galactus, like in his throne, it's such a cool shot of the four of them, and then just this huge behemoth, and you just see his crown. And then because I always talk about, as an action junkie, building an action scene and having multiple variables to add to the tension, perfect, right? You can do, you can do like the standard Marvel, like, all right, let's just come together and clash and just fight it out. Or you could do something like this, where you set up your greatest enemy. You have this immense threat. Then it's a chase scene. Involved in the chase scene, a pregnancy happening, which is like one of the scariest things that I think people can just relate to humanity-wise, right? And then while that's happening, you have the time dilation from the black hole, which was a nice little detail that I love they added. They're like, all right, we're going to be 1 month later, like when we get back home. So the time dilation, them getting out, like chased through the wormhole, through the black hole, and then having to propel themselves, definitely took some inspo from Interstellar, using the force of the star to propel themselves. With the Giacchino score, the choirs, right? That
was just
oh yeah, that with literally the of the Silver Surfer Shalabal
ASMR.
Dude, that's all I imagine. Like that's me sitting in my room at 12 o'clock listening to movie scores, being like, yeah, that's what's that's what's going.
going. That's sick.
That's what's
You
happening.
were filled with so much fucking whimsy that I take back everything I said. That was such a great sequence.
Yeah, that's exactly what I imagine, and that's exactly how like I imagine wanting to construct an action scene. So I love that. That was honestly my favorite scene in the entire film, and honestly one of my favorite scenes I've seen from Marvel like in the last decade. I shouldn't say the last decade. That's a big stretch, but the last
Since Endgame, probably.
Endgame,
Yeah.
So, yeah, love it. I just wish the Galactus resolution was as intense as that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think when we get back to, I don't know what, I think they're in New York, technically. Like, I think
Yes,
yeah.
yeah.
And when we get back to New York, it's kind of just everything kind of stalls out. I think that's where it's unfortunate because you can have the human tension dealing with this overt threat that can literally just eat your entire world, and it's not treated with the same care and the same attention that sequence was filled with.
Was it ever like confirmed what John Malkovich's role in the movie was going to be?
He was the Red Ghost.
Right, but like not his role in the plot.
No.
Okay, so I have my theory.
Okay.
I think he was probably trying to kidnap that baby, which this movie needed.
For Galactus?
Yeah, probably. Because he told, why else would he tell everybody? Because like they had like that little thing of like, oh no, like they're gonna, the baby, but like nobody actually did anything about it. Like Meaghan, you were talking before about how like people would react to that. Like I feel like day 2, somebody's coming for that baby, like or else we're all gonna die, right? I feel like that would be John Malkovich was probably like, well, I have to get the baby. I have to get the baby. I can't do him, but you know what I'm talking
and there
about.
was literally like radical like pro-Galactus groups that
they had the
when they
news.
turned on the news.
See, well, dude. I know
It's possible.
I'm like a shaman reading into the Marvel subplots that they cut. I did the same thing for New World. I think I'm right. I think Malkovich was going to steal that baby away. And I could have added some much needed conflict because this movie has no subplot, which is also bizarre. There's no subplot in this movie. Well, there's like tiny little subplots. There's Ben Grimm going to the synagogue.
That are touched upon, but
but not really. It didn't have like a B plot. Sorry, camera. I think it could have used a John Malkovich trying to steal a baby plot, or the Mole Man trying to steal the baby. I mean, he just kind of shows up and is like a funny little goof. But I mean, it could have been cool if he was like, "I'm going to sink the tower and take the baby" or something. That would have been fun.
Definitely. In terms of, we haven't talked a lot about Galactus in general and Shalabal, the female version of the Silver Surfer that we get, Julia Garner, best known from Ozark. I think she actually does a great job with what she's given in this too. I like that we get a little bit of, we at least get a flashback of kind of showing how she was summoned by Galactus and how she has to take on this mantle. Sean, how did you feel about the way they handled the villains in this film?
Well, I love Julia Garner. I think she's awesome. One of my favorite working actresses. She's the whole reason I saw Wolfman, and I can't wait to see her in Weapons. She's great here. Yeah, I think it is bizarre that they give her like almost the most of any character to like actually do emotionally. Like she has like a whole backstory they explore. She has an arc. She like ends up kind of saving the day. She's like a part of every great action scene, if not every action scene, period. I think she does a really good. Well, rephrase your question. What'd you say?
No, just in terms of
just how to. Did I like her? Yeah, I did. I liked her.
What about Galactus for you?
I mean, I don't know. People that are into comics, like I went with a couple of buddies, and some of them are comic readers, and they hype up Galactus like he's essentially like the next Thanos. Like he's like the big bad, right? And like he sort of came across as just like a big dude. I like that, like, when he gets to Earth, that he's just sort of, like, mogging them the whole time. Like, they're, like, throwing lava at him. He's just, like, fucking, just frowning at him, like, does not care. He's doing the whole, like, but he's, whatever. It's
being the Rizzler on
he's, like, he's risen him up, right? So I think that, like, that's cool, because it makes me think, like, oh, he does not give a shit. Like, you're an ant beneath my boot, right? Like, that's cool. In terms of, like, his scene, it's pretty good. I like that. I think, he looks good. Whoever you said was doing the voice does a good job. Yeah, he's like intimidating, I guess. I mean, I'm not gonna remember him though, if that's what you're saying. Like, he didn't leave like a huge impact on me. Like, I feel like maybe he should have, because again, he's faulted like way too easy. I think the way that the Sean rewrite would have gone is that I know that they're going to go into the MCU. Like this universe is going to merge with like whatever the MCU universe is. Like, why not just have him like not be defeated? Like, he's going to eat the planet. They have to leave, and then they just the way they leave is Reed teleports them to the MCU world. Like, I feel like that's an easy fix because then it's like, you don't defeat the intergalactic threat, and we're gonna go there anyway. So like, let's just fucking do it now. Like, I'm sick of waiting for the post-credit scene to like get anything for like the grand MCU to happen. Yeah. Like, I think we could have just done that at the end of this movie, and then he would have had like an actual like seeable effect on the universe. Instead, now he's just like another, he's a villain of the week essentially. And I feel like the way everyone hyped him up was like, oh, this guy, like he's legit. And
I do think that's fair because I think so much of it is just going to be the plot that. Well, we see going back to Thunderbolts, Meaghan. Oh, Meaghan, you didn't see it. You know the post-credit scene?
Thunderbolts? I saw Thunderbolts.
You did see Thunderbolts. Yeah. Oh, you didn't see Thunderbolts.
You can spoil the post-credit scene if you want. That's okay.
Okay. So the post-credit scene in Thunderbolts is that the team of the Thunderbolts, who are now the new Avengers, they see that there is the Fantastic Four ship is crashing into Earth 616, which is the MCU. So at some point, the family has to get there anyway. And part of me is like, is it because they're escaping their world because it's collapsing? And is that a Doom thing? Mm-hmm. Because Galactus is such a physical force, and like, I mean, literally, he eats planets. Like, how could they need to prop up Doom to be even bigger and crazier and gnarlier than that? Yeah. So how do you do that? And I think it's going to lead to them escaping that world, and it's still going to collapse because of Doom. But that's a setup thing where it's like, then why are you putting Galactus in this movie in general?
Yeah, I gotta be honest, I'm a little disappointed he's not just like a really big planet-sized guy. Like, he's a big guy, but he's not that big. Yeah. I wanted him to just like literally try to like grab the planet and like, I think that would have been cool.
Well, he can grow, right, Vinny?
Yeah, he can manipulate his shape, which he felt like he was big. But I feel like
he's a big boy.
He's a big boy.
Pretty big guy.
But
I've seen bigger.
Bigger.
So I feel like, yeah, I agree with you. I was surprised with how small he was, but also like he wasn't that small. He's like I'm sure he has a great personality.
That's good.
Meaghan, talk to me about how you felt about Silver Surfer.
Okay. Actually, first I want to answer your question with a question. Has there ever been a female Silver Surfer in the comics?
Yes, and this is the version from the comics, Shalabal.
Okay, okay, so that was something that I didn't know going into the movie. So Silver Surfer is actually like, I used to play the Marvel Alliance game like on my Xbox 360, and Silver Surfer was a character I loved playing as because I just like. Silver Surfer is just so cool. Mm-hmm. So I was really excited. I kind of like forgot Silver Surfer was in the movie actually. So I was just like, like the first reveal of her, I genuinely, I was anxious. I actually was a bit afraid. It did, like, she felt very threatening. And I just thought that she was just done very well. Like, she was just cool. Like, I just can't even think of of any better word. So just, I thought that they just did her character very well. And the fact that, she did actually have like the biggest arc out of everybody, obviously was a very satisfying element of the film as well. And just the fact that like she comes in time and time again, and she even like, I was so frustrated when she comes in and starts destroying all of their, like, they had those teleportation like things, and they were trying to and she comes in and she destroys them all. I'm like, this bitch. Like, I was so frustrated. Like, she would just come in and just fuck everything up time and time again. But then, obviously at the very end, we have like this great redemption, which I was not expecting. Like, I when like Human Torch was about to sacrifice himself, I was still like, oh, no, like, I cared. I felt bad. I mean, it would have been more worth it. Like, Sean's over here like,
I know, I'm sorry. That was what I looked like in your peripheral, but really I was going, nice, I agree.
But yeah, like in that moment, like I was like, anticipating that, okay, that's going to be his ending, I guess. It wasn't even enough time for me to really process it and decide that was the fate of his character. But then when she comes in, I was like, oh, goddamn. I'm like, okay. So like she surprised me in a lot of good ways. I really didn't know what to expect personally. I had no expectations for, what they were going to do with her character. So I was just the whole time I was just very pleased. I thought she was very interesting. And then in terms of Galactus, I mean, I'm just, yeah, he's hyped up to be extremely powerful. However, what I keep remembering is the fact that when they devise this whole plan, to trick him, I'm immediately like, they're gonna trick him, they're gonna deceive him. Like, these 4 little guys are gonna deceive the most powerful, like, supervillain in the MCU. Like, I was a little like, really? And the fact that they did get away with it, I'm a little bit like, really? But, like, Human Torch happens to be able to blind him, right? Like, he just shoots fire up in his eyes, and he's like, oh... I don't know why I just didn't. I was like, really? And then no one else can even like make a dent. I was kind of like, I didn't know where the scale was on how like invincible he was. I was a little bit unsure, of like how threatening he really was and how strong he really was. I don't even think that they knew. Like, when they were making the movie, they didn't know how powerful they really wanted him to be. Like, they didn't commit to one or the other. So I think that was something I really did feel when I was watching. And then the fact that like, he just kind of gets pushed over, like we were mentioning earlier, he just kind of gets like shoved.
Yeah, showing how crazy powerful Sue is in comparison to everybody else.
That is true though. She and just the fact that she was so strong, that was another thing I was also very pleasantly surprised by. I'm glad that she was able to showcase that, and that was showcased for her character through him. She's OP. And that is very clear. So yeah, I do have some positives and some negatives there. For sure.
Vinny, what do you think about the antagonists?
Yeah, I feel like I said what I said before. It felt lackluster. I also really agree with you, Meaghan. That was a brilliant point of how they never make it clear of his power. And now that you bring it up, I think like, why hasn't Silver Surfer, if he was so easily just able to be overpower and dominated physically, why did Silver Surfer do some shit before that? You know what I mean? Or you could say, she was subservient up until Johnny was like, yo, snap out of it. So you can make that claim, but I 100% agree with you of like, it just felt lackluster because it felt unclear what the writers want to do. And at the beginning of the review, you said how it felt like a stepping stone of like, yeah, we're just going to keep it in the back pocket for later because they have no idea where Marvel's going. So they're like, oh, well, we want to use Galactus again. So let's just
just make him disappear for a while.
Yeah. So yeah, that was... I feel like I said what I had to say about Galactus overall.
Yeah, this movie could have used, I think, an additional 15 to 20 minutes of runtime, probably, to explore a lot of the other things.
Yeah, I never thought I would have said that about a Marvel movie.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, like you said, Meaghan, I can't remember the last time a Marvel movie came in under 2 hours.
Right.
It's been a long time. Like Brave New World, I feel like might have been like 2 hours 10.
That movie was 19 hours long.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the worst movies Marvel's ever made. But I think that I just don't understand why they cut out certain things that they cut out. And again, it's like we'll never probably know why they did what they did.
Yeah, they gotta get their editing in what their team needs to lock in.
Yeah,
I feel like they're ripping up some of these movies and they're cutting some essential shit out. I want to see the who directed this movie?
Matt Shakman.
I want to see the Shakman cut.
I do.
I do
as well.
cut.
I want to see the Shakman cut too. Franklin. Go ahead.
Oh wait, so actually you say what you're gonna say.
All right, because we haven't touched a lot on Franklin.
I was just thinking
Shout out
that.
Franklin.
Yeah.
But so here's my thing with Franklin.
He's a little baby.
He's a baby.
Little baby.
Giving Franklin, and understandably in the comics, Franklin is one of the most powerful beings. Not the most powerful being,
I didn't know
but
that.
one of the most powerful beings in all of Marvel Comics. Having him save Sue at the end of the film could be an issue going forward, especially with the fact that we now have a 5-year-old being the prominent character going forward in this massive.
So wait, sorry.
thing.
I thought maybe I misinterpreted that scene. He resurrected her.
Literally.
I thought it was like the mother's love brought her. I'm too poetic.
No,
I
he
guess.
literally. So he has this thing called the power cosmic, and he literally.
Well,
has
right, I heard that. The power cosmic is you could raise the dead.
He basically can he's an all-powerful being. He's so powerful that he could literally resurrect somebody.
No shit.
And in the comics, I know, like, which is interesting because we know that the X-Men are coming, but like in the comics, he has a really good friendship with Leech, and Leech's whole comic arc is that he can suck the powers out of anybody that's within his like purview. So like they're really good friends because Franklin then has the weight taken off of him as he gets older of like, okay, I'm not this all-powerful being again. So like that whole thing with Galactus also introduced, not explored enough to understand exactly what that is.
Yeah, I didn't know what that was at all.
And what that means.
I thought that was like a weird element of it for me, was this vague, like, the baby is important. I was like, why? Because he has powers? Like, everybody has powers.
Yeah,
you know?
but we don't get a real sense of what the powers of Franklin are until the end of the movie, and you don't even interpret it that way.
Yeah, but I might just be stupid. I think I just missed it. That's probably not the movie's
But so
fault.
for you, so you're a writer again. We so much of this movie relies on the weight of a child,
True.
a literal baby,
Yeah.
for so much of the movie. So how did that play for you? And then I'd like to hear you guys' thoughts too on Franklin's role in the movie in general.
Well, we just talked about this with Squid Game because they also have a weird CGI baby in it. But I think that
Franklin is real in some scenes.
some
though.
scenes,
Yeah.
that's true.
Franklin
Some-
is definitely a real
some
child
scenes,
in
it's
some
a real
scenes.
child. Shout out child actor. Yeah, I don't know. I think that a baby's not really a character, which is like, I'm not saying like it's not it's obviously, but I think a character has like traits, and a baby's sort of like a plot device essentially.
Yeah.
It doesn't like do anything of its own accord usually, especially an infant. So in terms of like, do I like Franklin? Like, I don't know. Yeah, I like it as much as I liked like the couch in the living room. Like that, it's pretty much like they don't really, if they just had like an important like piece of chalk or something, and it was like they treated it the same. It's essentially the same thing. It's a MacGuffin. So I'm intrigued to see like where he'll grow into, or like the character he will become.
Yeah.
I think like now they've aged him up. I think that was smart to like give him like a young child with infinite power is always a good archetype to have.
Yeah.
Of like someone who's not capable of controlling power. That's good. That excites me. But I think in terms of like how he is in the movie, like, yeah, okay. He's just like a little, it's like essentially they're carrying around like a little nuke all movie. So
Yeah.
young nuke.
Quickly for the dynamic that we could potentially see of having a child with all that power, not understanding what decisions to make while being enticed with Doctor Doom.
Yeah, cool.
You're excited about that?
Yeah, that's cool. I would imagine that has something to do with like what Doom's plan will be in Doomsday. Is like, essentially I have this baby and I can make it like do whatever I want if I raise it right. Like, that's cool. Okay, sure. Because I don't know what else the hell he's gonna do. I don't know Doctor Doom like how comic people know Doctor Doom. I'm sure somebody's gonna pull out that like, oh, he has like a magic finger or something. I don't know, but like it sounds to me like, oh, it's this like evil guy that hates Reed Richards that has his son, and he's like young enough to be kind of like molded, and that's the threat. That's cool. Okay, sure. Yeah, I'm with that.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Meaghan.
So I've been really looking forward to talking about Franklin this entire time. I'm very aware that I think most of the reasons why I feel the way I do is definitely because I'm subject to like my own biology, and I'm like seeing this adorable just baby in danger, and the whole time I'm worried sick, and like just the fact that before we know that Sue is gonna get revived by this child, like it's crying and it's reaching for its mother. Oh my god, like that actually, like even thinking about it just now when I was like just kind of like gathering my thoughts, I started feeling like that those feelings kind of come back. Like I genuinely was very like sad for a moment. Like I was like, wow, this could be a really tragic ending if they decided to take that route, which I mean, they didn't, which I also was a little bit relieved. I was like, this is a very beautiful moment that's happening right now. But it definitely highlighted that there is like like immense power in this baby. That again, like, where are we gonna go with this? Because there's so much there, yet there's so much not there yet. He's not even really not conscious. Obviously it's a human being, but he has nothing yet. He doesn't understand what the world is, but there's so much power there, which like is kind of it's a bit of a it could be dangerous. I don't know. I haven't read the comics. I don't really know too much about this character, but I just know that there is so much power there, and there's so much yet to be developed, even mentally, that you can't even really grasp what like Franklin's really capable of, or he can't even grasp it. So I'm curious how they're going to sort of just explore that element, like with Doom, and something even like in the post-credit scene. I was also, I mean, it's so quick, that last shot of Doom just kind of hovering over Franklin, I was sort of just trying to figure out what was going on, because it kind of just like, it kind of looked like
He's playing peekaboo with him.
yeah, right?
Yeah.
Because like it kind of seemed as if Doom was kind of like, sort of like hovered like over him, like, all right, little bro, let me tell you what's going on. Let me tell you what's about to happen. Like that's kind of what it felt like. And I was like, yo, like, what? So like it just moved so fast where I don't even know. Like
Where we're gonna go from here.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, so it's very much up in the air for me a little bit. But there was another moment that I really wanted to touch on because I feel very strongly about it. But when the robot, when Herbie and the baby are inside the penthouse,
Yeah.
and Galactus like pulls up on them and like totally just like rocks their shit. Like I was like, and then like the robot's like playing with him. He's all like, beep, pop, like he's playing with the baby, and Franklin's in the. I was like, oh my god, this is so like cute and wholesome. Like I love it. And then like Galactus just destroys them. Like just like walls are collapsing on this beautiful moment. Like that genuinely had me like squirming in my seat. I'm like, oh my god, no. So like that was just a moment for me that I was freaking out. But like otherwise, I mean, obviously like they were okay. General theme of this conversation, everyone's fine. But like yeah, that was I think Franklin really was like kind of like the driving like interest for me. I feel like for most of it just so happened to be that way. From my experience personally, I was just very excited about him. Yeah.
Vinny, and then we'll wrap up with our final thoughts on the movie.
Yeah, so Franklin for me, he was good. He was good. I almost have no other thoughts. Where my thoughts go is with the future of this character. Like you guys mentioned, he's very powerful. I mean, in the comic books, he has literally created a multiverse. There has been an account where he has created universes with his own fucking bare hands. Just like,
baby hands.
Yeah. So, yeah, maybe that plays into Doomsday. Most likely going to play into Doomsday. I have a feeling that Doom, knowing him, is not going to be like malicious with the usage of Richard. He's not going to, or not Richard, Franklin. Yeah. He's going to be, he's going to almost have, like raising the kid, but using the kid's ability to like
take advantage.
Yeah, hey, can you do this for me? Can you do this for me? Yeah. So, yeah, I'm very curious. Very, very curious how they're going to play his character, where that's going to lead us to Secret Wars specifically, knowing the Secret Wars arc of what happens there. Yes.
I'm also excited because we get two glimpses within the movie where Latveria, and again, if you don't know the comics, you might not know this, but again, Latveria is where Dr. Doom is from.
I caught that, yeah.
And there's multiple times where in the Future Foundation, obviously whoever's the representative there is clearly not there for reasons. I hope we get context to those reasons because I think that's important. And I am excited to kind of see the dynamic that they do present with Reed and Victor, and I think that could be where Pedro could shine and find the depth within the character, and I hope that is the case, and we'll have one writer on that movie, hopefully versus 4, where we can have a real succinct sort of narrative direction and where they want to go with the characters. But we've talked for a while about this movie. It's time to go into scores. I guess I'll start.
Go ahead.
I'll start. I've gone back and forth a little bit with this. This has been a really great discussion with all of you guys. Certain things that I've taken away from it that I didn't necessarily feel coming out of the movie that now I do feel, and other things I feel more strongly in my foundation of things that I like versus don't like. I really do think the first half of this movie is incredibly strong, and I think it's sad to see how we're going in this unfortunate trend with Marvel projects where we're just kind of tailing off at the end of a project just to serve the future story. And I do hate that is where we're going, because part of what was so beautiful about the Infinity Saga is that it was a perfect build to get us to this culmination of what we got. And I hope it pays off. I hope we get what we want in Doomsday. I'm happy that they pushed Doomsday and Secret Wars back, and we're going to get Spider-Man before that to hopefully establish a little bit more with aspects. And we still have other TV series to come, and hopefully we get other things. But The score is amazing. The cinematography is amazing. The production design is amazing. I think there are some really great performances in here. I think there are other performances that are good. I don't think there's a bad performance in this movie, by the way. Yeah. I just think there are aspects of the writing and the pacing that I think unfortunately hamper this movie at times. But I enjoy this movie. I think probably, if not the most in this room, one of the most in the room. I'm looking forward to seeing it again. I want to see it in IMAX and see kind of the visuals and how that looks. So I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. So I'm lower than, again, I don't want to do the comparison thing either. I'm lower than Superman. I'm lower than Thunderbolts. But I do think it's a good movie. And I'm more excited to see kind of where they continue to build with the Fantastic Four going forward.
Okay.
Sean.
Yeah, I'm obviously a little bit more negative on it. Sorry, everybody. I feel like such a hater whenever I come in here and I'm like, I don't like it. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of enjoyable elements of this movie. I think the score is great, cinematography, everything you just said. I think there's a lot of really enjoyable elements. I even like the first act. I think it's really strong. There's just too many like writing issues I have with this movie, and it's a personal thing. If you don't like care about a lot of that stuff and you just want to see Herbie in live action and like a really good cast, and it's got a great look and style about it that is very unique. I like that Marvel's trying things and like trying to make a movie that like feels like a movie and not just like another MCU thing. It's like, no, this one has its own style and like weird shots and like, yeah, cool. Like keep doing that. We need more like authorship in these movies, and I feel like I got a real sense of Shakman's direction here. That's good overall. I just kind of feel like this is another example of an MCU movie that's still kind of just like butchered by editing choices, producing choices, like cutting things that should be there. And yeah, I'm feeling like a fantastic 4 out of 10 for me, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not so fantastic.
A fantastic 4, I guess.
Megan, go ahead.
So I remember actually discussing the Fantastic Four trailer. I'm pretty sure with you, Darian. I think you were there, Vinny. Like last year, after like we were reviewing something else, and like Fantastic Four trailer had just come out, and I literally remember saying, and we were discussing it. Like clearly they have a style in mind. Like there is a distinct style with this, and I think that you know. Sometimes it's very evident that maybe they don't know where they're going with these movies, but I think that they knew what they were doing stylistically, and they were paying like their respects, to the comics, and they were doing that, and they were very intentional with that, and that was very clear, and that was something I definitely enjoyed. Like I mentioned in the beginning, just how it looked, it was stunning. And despite like the conceptual gripes or just like the pacing and things like that, I did go into this movie excited and leave in a good mood. Like I did enjoy it, and at the end of the day, that is what going to the movies is about. You just kind of want to be able to kind of escape and enjoy something, and I will say at the very least, I really did still enjoy it. So I'm still excited for what this is going to turn into. I'm still excited to see what they do with these heroes, because I just think that they are so interesting. Their stories are so interesting to me, and just the world that they're from, I really do just have a lot of excitement about that. So I am very positive about the future of the Fantastic Four, and just how they're going to fit in with everything else that Marvel's been working towards cinematically, and just towards Doomsday and everything like that. So I'm optimistic as per usual when it comes to Marvel. So I think actually, Darian, before you said your score, I was thinking the same exact thing. I am going to just happily steal that, and I also gave it a 7.5 out of 10.
Vinny.
Yeah, I love the uniqueness of this film. I love to death a lot of sequences in this film. Shia LaBeouf as a character, I think, is very well done. And I am excited, very excited, for the implementation of the Fantastic Four in the grand universe. I'm very excited to see this version of the Thing, with the Hulk. And retrospectively, this is by far the best interpretation, although I had my issues with the film and the structure of the film and how they handled this interpretation of specifically, the characters. But it is the best interpretation we've got in live action thus far. And that is, hands down, which I didn't get to say in the review, but because I was being a little bit of a negative Nancy. But yeah, so I'm excited to see, Kirby, Pedro, Ebon, and Quinn's retrospective characters in the same room as Robert Downey Jr. and Mark Ruffalo and all them. I'm going to give this a 5.5, though, because it did falter in the same ways that I said it did falter throughout the review.
Okay. Well, guys, that was our long-winded, great discussion, though, of the Fantastic Four First Steps. Let us know what are your guys' thoughts in the comments section. Give this video a like if you guys can, and subscribe to us here at the Culture Wave Media Network. Let us know if you were more on the positive side or if you guys had specific gripes with the movie. Are you guys excited going forward with Doomsday and what this group is going to be doing going forward? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. You guys can also follow us on social media. If you don't already, all that stuff is below me in the video, and it's also in our YouTube description. So just signing off, I'm Darian Scalamoni.
I've been Johnny Storm.
Yeah, I've been Sue Storm, aka Meaghan Krantz.
And I have been Ben Grimm, a.k.a. Vinny Albano.
And we'll see you guys next time.
This is The Culture.